I've got a very special talk at the table this morning, only on CBS This Morning. Oprah sent this to us yesterday. She's revealing her new and highly anticipated book club selection.
Good morning, CBS This Morning team. Hey, Gail. I chose Deacon King Kong by James McBride as my next book club selection, long before the events of these past weeks, during which our collective hearts are being broken again and again by the images of violence against Black people. In 2015, President Obama awarded James McBride the National Humanities Medal for humanizing the complexities of discussing race in America. That citation went on to read, through writings about his own uniquely American story and his works of fiction informed by our shared story, his moving stories of love display the character of the American family. Well, in a moment when our country roils with righteous anger and grief, Deacon King Kong reminds us that when we come together as a community in compassion and empathy, love triumphs. I am praying for justice and for love to triumph in our country right now. And in naming Deacon King Kong, my latest Oprah's Book Club selection, I'm hoping that readers will find in it what I did: some beauty, some sorrow, some joy, resilience, and most of all, humanity, and the understanding that while we struggle with pain and trauma, we can find shelter in one another, just as the characters in the Cause Housing Project in McBride's Brooklyn do.
Thank you, Oprah. Nicely done. Oprah standing in her yard. Did you hear how loud the birds are in California? They seem happy there. New York Times bestselling author James McBride. Hello, James McBride. James McBride joins us from his home in New Jersey. James McBride, I have to tell you this. I remember when Oprah was reading this book, and halfway through she said, I think I've got it, I think I've got it. By the time she was done, she goes, no question, this is it. And talk about the timing, because here we are in 2020, where people are protesting about race relations in this country. You were writing about this very thing in 1969. So I'm thinking, what message does it send to you at this moment, the timing of it all?
Well, I mean, it just shows that we still have a little bit of, distance to cover, but that some of these problems are not new, and it really depends on how you look at things, in terms of addressing them. They're complicated problems, but they require, complicated and humane answers.
You've got there are many interesting dynamics and relationships in the book, but one of them is about a pastor's wife who has a friendship with a white police officer, Sister G, and she says this: y'all don't watch out for us, y'all watch over us. How did you approach your portrayal of police officers during this time? And listen, this book was written way before what we're going through now, but as you said, this is not a new issue.
Well, I mean, like any any Black person, I've had my issues with the police. But on the other hand, I have family members who are police officers, and I know that most cops don't go to bed. They're not thinking of racism when they go to bed. They're probably worried about their wife sleeping with the gardener or something. So I didn't really. I wanted to humanize a part of the world that most of us never see, and that included the people in the projects as well as the officers who guard them. That particular character you're talking about happens to fall in love with Sister. I don't want to give the book away, but Sister G and that officer, they end up falling in love, which is, it happens in this world. And my job as a writer is to show that kind of thing to people, because that's what really lasts. It's the love that counts. It's the love that lasts, and it's the love that brings the joy and the humor to books and to storytelling.
I want to talk about the humor for just a second, because there are a lot of issues to navigate in this book. But the thing that made me laugh out loud several times was your name choices, James. So it focuses on Deacon Sportcoat, whose real name, by the way, is Cuffy Lampkin. He has a son named Pudgy Fingers. He has a friend named Hot Sausage. There's a funeral director named Morris Hurley Gurley. There's a sweet corn cousin who's fighting with her cousin over the affections of Puddin', and we can't forget Light Bulb. So I'm wondering about what went into how you decided to name your characters. Were you cracking up as you were writing them too?
Oh, I love naming these people. Some of these names I've heard and used, and I knew a Light Bulb. And I knew a lot of these names are names of people that I actually knew. I mean, a lot of us have, We have crazy names in our families, and if you look at the world as your family, as I try to, the nicknames that we give each other are they're pieces of love that we exchange with one another. So, yeah.
So it centers around the church deacon whose sport coat and all that's going on in his life in this Boston housing project. As you mentioned, you know some of these characters. Ultimately, what do you want us all to take out of the book? Because there are many storylines that are going through. It's about a drug dealer. It's about baseball. It's about love. It's about betrayal. It all weaves together in the end. What do you want our takeaway to be
Well,
as we sit here today?
I want people to know that we have a lot more in common than we are different. All of us have a sport coat. In this book, the sport coat is a guy who pulls out a gun and shoots the worst drug dealer in the housing projects. And the ensuing chaos that happens as a result of that shooting is often comically played out. But the fact is we all are pretty much the same. We all have a sport coat. We all have some kind of crazy uncle who shows up at Christmas and takes his teeth out, or an aunt who has 50 cats or does something wild. And it gives us a chance to forgive ourselves, and we have to understand we are a dysfunctional but loving family. And that helps get me out of bed every morning.
Yeah, me too, because I so believe in Sport Coat, who shot the drug dealer who he used to coach in baseball. And part of the mystery was, why did he do that? I love how you tied it all together. We thank you, James McBride. I'm curious, what did you think when Oprah called you and said, hey, you're my choice? What did you think?
Oh, man, I used to tell my brother, I said, I never win nothing. No, I can't say that. It was a great moment. I wish everyone could experience that feeling. I recognized her voice right away, by the way, even though, so let it be known I knew who I was talking. Yeah. I knew who it was.
Okay. All right. Because a lot of people go, this ain't really you. This ain't really you, Oprah. Thank you, James McBride. Congratulations, Deacon King Kong. There's a story about King Kong. That too is on sale now wherever you like to read your books. And you can read an excerpt of Oprah's new book club selection on CBSThisMorning.com.